They wanted to be stronger, faster, unstoppable, but the price was terrifying. These 12 women pushed their bodies beyond human limits until steroids changed everything. What they look like today will leave you speechless. Join us and let's meet the strongest women in the world. Curious? Join us and let's go. Number 12. Yeon Woo-ji, shattering Korean beauty standards. In a culture where slim, petite frames define beauty and femininity, Yeon Woo-ji chose rebellion. At 36, her body tells a story of deliberate defiance against convention. She transformed herself from a delicate 105 pounds into a striking 154 pounds of pure muscle in just a few years. That kind of change demands more than dedication. It demands absolute obsession. Training 6 days a week with punishing intensity, Yeon Woo pushed every biological limit. Her efforts landed her top 5 finishes at prestigious IFBB events like the Vancouver Pro and New York Pro, establishing her as a legitimate force in international bodybuilding. But her most unforgettable moment came on the Korean TV show Star King in 2016. When she walked onto that stage, jaws dropped simultaneously across the audience. Eyes widened. The shock was so visceral, it became entertainment in itself. The mix of awe and disbelief was undeniable. Here was a Korean woman who deliberately built a physique that violated every cultural expectation of how women should look. There's more beneath the surface. Her voice carries an unusually low tone, similar to other top bodybuilders like Natalia Kuznetsova. This could hint at steroid use, though intense training alone can trigger elevated testosterone levels, even without pharmaceutical intervention. The truth likely exists somewhere in between, and frankly, it's beside the point. What matters is that Yeon Woo's journey isn't just about muscle. It's about rewriting cultural rules, defying societal pressure, and commanding respect in a nation where women face intense pressure to remain small, soft, and conventionally beautiful. Those stunned faces in the crowd prove one thing beyond doubt: she's unforgettable. Her impact extends far beyond the gym, challenging what beauty can be, and forcing uncomfortable conversations about strength, femininity, and identity. She defies the pressure to conform, embracing a powerful physique that few Korean women dare to claim. Her story inspires others to break free from restrictive stereotypes and chase their own definition of greatness, regardless of cultural disapproval. Yeon Woo-ji proves that sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply refusing to make yourself smaller to fit into spaces designed to contain you. Number 11. China, the untouchable who wasn't. China demolished the glass ceiling in professional wrestling by standing 5'8" and packing over 200 pounds of functional muscle onto her frame. While other women in the industry played decorative roles or managed from ringside, she faced male opponents head-on and made it look effortless. Her physicality wasn't performative. She legitimately possessed the strength to execute moves that required real power, not theatrical illusion. Triple H, himself a mountain of muscle, became romantically involved with her, drawn by the same physical dominance that captivated audiences worldwide. But relationships in wrestling's upper echelons carry complications beyond typical romance. When China discovered Triple H's affair with Stephanie McMahon, daughter of WWE's CEO, she made a calculated gamble. Believing her status made her irreplaceable, she confronted management directly, demanding accountability and respect. The response came swift and brutal: termination. Her contract evaporated overnight. No farewell matches, no gradual exit storyline, just immediate removal from the roster. The woman who seemed invincible discovered that organizational politics trump individual strength, regardless of muscle mass. Without her wrestling platform, China stopped training. The physique that defined her career began deteriorating rapidly. Muscle requires constant stimulus and nutrition to maintain, And without either, her body shed the mass it no longer needed. Photographs from her later years show a drastically different person. Thinner, softer, lacking the intimidating presence that once made her wrestling's most formidable female competitor. China's trajectory demonstrates that physical power, even when extreme and hard-earned, offers zero protection against institutional decisions. She built her career on being too strong to ignore, but discovered that strength means nothing when the platform disappears. Her downfall wasn't physical weakness. It was misreading her actual value in an organization where everyone, no matter how powerful, remains replaceable.
I have a question for you. First, I would like to say that it is possible to follow the greatest curiosities of our world every day. But to do so, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, are you already subscribed? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Also, take the opportunity to like the video so YouTube will recommend more videos from our channel. So leave your like right now. And now that you have done that, let's go!
Number 10. Bev Francis, ballet dancer turned powerlifting beast. Bev Francis was born in 1955 in Geelong, Australia, the eldest of 5 siblings. From age 4 to 15, she trained as a ballet dancer, learning discipline and body control through rigid classical technique. But her athleticism extended far beyond dance studios. During school years, she dominated swimming pools, football fields, field hockey games, and tennis courts with equal ferocity. At university, her competitive hunger grew even stronger as she tackled volleyball, rowing, and track athletics. By 1976, armed with her bachelor's degree, she dove headfirst into powerlifting and never looked back. Over the following years, she claimed the World Powerlifting Championship 6 times, establishing herself as an absolute force in strength sports. Her reputation caught the attention of producer George Butler, who cast her in the 1983 documentary Pumping Iron 2: The Women, filmed at Caesars World Cup in Las Vegas. Back then, female bodybuilders faced a frustrating double standard. Judges evaluated not just muscle development, but how feminine competitors looked on stage. Bev tried everything to satisfy these impossible expectations. She underwent nose surgeries, bleached her hair, even deliberately removed muscle mass to slim down and appear more conventionally attractive. Despite these sacrifices, first place in major contests kept eluding her. The message was clear. Be strong, but not too strong. Be muscular, but still look like a beauty pageant contestant. It wasn't until 1987 that Bev finally cracked the code, winning the World Championship by blending massive powerlifting size with newfound symmetry that satisfied judges' arbitrary femininity requirements. But here's the twisted part. While Bev and other women were pressured to sculpt an impossible blend of strength and traditional beauty, men's competitions showcased rough, sweaty athletes who looked like truck drivers and construction workers. Nobody demanded male bodybuilders maintain pretty faces or soft features. The glaring double standard exposed just how brutal and unfair those expectations were. Bev Francis built a legacy not just through her championships, but by surviving a system designed to punish women for being too successful at building muscle. Her story reveals how female athletes constantly navigate cultural landmines that don't exist for their male counterparts, forced to balance strength with palatability in ways that have nothing to do with athletic performance. Number 9. Nicole Bass, when strength becomes a death sentence. Nicole Bass carried 315 pounds on her chest during bench presses, weight that would crush most men without hesitation. Her bodybuilding career launched in 1985, and by the late 1990s, she'd transformed from muscular athlete into something that looked carved from granite rather than grown from human tissue. The transition wasn't gradual. Photographs from different decades show a woman whose bone structure itself seemed to expand, whose features sharpened into angles that nature doesn't typically create in female bodies. Anabolic steroids don't just add muscle like paint on canvas. They rewrite cellular instructions, triggering changes at the genetic level that harden jawlines, thicken skeletal structures, and strip subcutaneous fat with mechanical efficiency. For Nicole, this chemical intervention delivered the power she craved and the wrestling presence that made her unforgettable when she stormed into WWF in 1998. Fans recognized her instantly, not just as strong, but as superhuman, a woman who could physically dominate opponents twice her size without breaking stride. But steroids extract payment with interest. In 2006, Nicole's pancreas rebelled against years of synthetic hormone abuse, landing her in intensive care with steroid-induced pancreatitis. The organ became inflamed and potentially fatal, a direct consequence of pushing her endocrine system beyond biological tolerance. Her body, engineered for maximum performance, started cannibalizing itself. Years accumulated more damage. By her early 50s, Nicole suffered both stroke and heart attack, cardiovascular catastrophes that stemmed directly from decades of performance-enhancing drug use. The same substances that built her legendary physique had simultaneously constructed a ticking biological time bomb. Her death arrived as the final invoice for strength purchased on credit from her own biology. Nicole wanted to be the strongest, and briefly, she was. But the cost wasn't temporary soreness or temporary setbacks. It was permanent organ damage, cascading health failures, and ultimately, her life. The pursuit of extreme strength doesn't negotiate, it demands everything.
Number 8. Renee Campbell, Cold Chicken and Iron Discipline. For nearly 10 years, Renee Campbell has consumed the same meal every 3 hours: cold chicken, rice, eggs, and cabbage. Not occasionally, not as a temporary diet phase. Every single day, multiple times daily, served cold, eaten with mechanical precision. She consumes roughly 5,000 calories daily, more than double the average woman's needs, just to maintain her 200-pound muscular frame. Her back spans 47 inches wide. Her calves measure 17 inches around, dimensions that sound more mechanical than biological. Most people can't fathom eating identical meals for a week, let alone a decade. Renee doesn't just endure this repetition, she enforces it with obsessive consistency, carrying a portable scale to restaurants to weigh every bite before consuming it. Zero margin for error, zero spontaneity, zero deviation from the nutritional protocol that built her championship physique. Medical professionals advised her to stop lifting, to deliberately lose muscle mass for health reasons. She ignored them completely. In 2012, that cold, repetitive diet and unwavering training discipline delivered her overall world champion title and professional status from the International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness. The sacrifice seems incomprehensible to outsiders, giving up culinary variety, social dining experiences, and basic food enjoyment for years. But champions don't think in terms of sacrifice. They think in terms of necessary investment. Every cold chicken breast represents another brick in the foundation of physical excellence. Could you eliminate ice cream permanently? Never taste pizza again? Abandon every food that brings pleasure beyond macronutrient value? Most people answer that question in seconds. Absolutely not. Renee answered it differently and spent a decade proving she meant it. Her story isn't inspirational in the traditional sense. It's almost disturbing, revealing the psychological extremes required to compete at bodybuilding's highest levels. The dedication isn't admirable, it's pathological, a level of control most humans can't sustain for a month, let alone years. Yet that pathological control built a world champion. The question isn't whether her approach works. Clearly it does. The question is whether the price, a decade of identical cold meals and complete culinary deprivation, equals the reward of a championship title and professional status.
Number 7. Renee Toney, record-breaking arms and permanent changes. Early photographs show Renee Toney as a typical young athlete. Slim, modestly muscular, conventionally proportioned. Fast forward to the 2000s, and everything changed completely. Standing 5'8" and competing at 214 pounds of pure muscle, Renee weighed just slightly less than Arnold Schwarzenegger during his legendary prime at 235 pounds. Veins bulged across her skin like rivers mapped on flesh, visible testaments to single-digit body fat percentages and extreme vascularity. But her most notable feature wasn't vascular, it was structural. Renee holds the world record for largest biceps on a female bodybuilder, 20 inches on her right arm, 20¼ inches on her left. Since claiming this record in 2006, nobody has come close to dethroning her. Those arms alone could intimidate professional male bodybuilders, representing development beyond what most humans can achieve regardless of gender. She didn't hide how she achieved these dimensions. Renee openly admitted using anabolic steroids to build those colossal gains, acknowledging the pharmaceutical assistance required to push human muscle development into record-breaking territory. The physical consequences manifested predictably: more masculine jawline, broader shoulder structure, reduced breast tissue. Steroids didn't just add muscle, they fundamentally rewrote her secondary sex characteristics, blurring the line between enhanced female physique and pharmacologically altered biology. Her transformation illustrates the trade-off inherent in extreme bodybuilding. Achieving measurements that enter record books requires accepting permanent physical changes that extend far beyond muscle size. Renee made that bargain consciously, prioritizing arm development over maintaining conventional female characteristics. Whether that trade-off feels worthwhile depends entirely on individual values. For Renee, holding a world record that stood unchallenged for nearly 2 decades apparently justified the permanent biological changes. Her legacy exists in 2 forms: the inspirational record that proves human limits can be pushed further than most imagine, and the cautionary tale about pharmaceutical enhancement producing changes that persist long after competition ends. Those 20-inch biceps will eventually shrink when training stops, but the jawline alteration and voice deepening remain permanent biological modifications. Renee Toney achieved her goal of building the largest female biceps in recorded history. The question each athlete must answer individually is whether that achievement justifies accepting permanent changes to fundamental physical characteristics.
Number 6. Joanna Thomas, Muscle Massage Torture and Early Demise. Joanna Thomas became the United Kingdom's youngest professional female bodybuilder at just 21 years old. Her sculpted physique and fierce competitive drive quickly established her as a rising star in American competitions, where she consistently earned top placements from 1997 through 2007. While competitors and observers speculated about steroid use, Joanna's actual secret was considerably more brutal. Intense, deep tissue massage sessions specifically designed to tear muscle fibers apart and force growth through trauma and repair. The pain was reportedly excruciating, but it shaped the massive muscle development she became famous for. Pushing her body to such extremes extracted a steep price. By 2019, Joanna was diagnosed with severe, early-onset osteoarthritis in both knees, a degenerative joint condition dramatically worsened by years of punishing training and repetitive muscle trauma. Her mobility declined sharply, and chronic pain made continued training impossible. Without ability to maintain her muscular development through consistent lifting, her famously defined physique gradually diminished. Muscle requires constant stimulus. Stop training, and it disappears with surprising speed, especially when built to extreme levels. Despite desperately wanting to return to heavyweight bodybuilding competition, her deteriorating physical condition made that impossible. Joanna passed away in April 2020,
leaving behind a legacy of fierce dedication mixed with harsh cautionary warnings about the long-term consequences of extreme bodybuilding practices. Her method of using intentional muscle damage through aggressive massage to stimulate growth demonstrates the creative, often desperate tactics athletes employ to gain competitive advantages. Whether those advantages justify the permanent joint damage and premature death remains a question each athlete must answer individually. Joanna's story isn't inspirational. It's tragic, demonstrating that some training methods produce short-term results while simultaneously destroying long-term health. The wheelchair she required in her final years stood in stark contrast to the powerful physique she'd spent decades building. Her legacy serves as a reminder that extreme physical development often comes with devastating hidden costs that only become apparent years after competition ends. Number 5. Kim Chizevsky. Too good, so they changed the rules. Kim "Thunders" Chizevsky entered her first bodybuilding competition in 1989 with minimal preparation and secured second place immediately. At just 121 pounds, her natural muscle density and structural symmetry already surpassed competitors who'd trained for years. Most athletes would celebrate that silver medal and continue cautiously. Kim decided to see how far her genetics could actually go. By 1996, she didn't just win Miss Olympia, she dominated so completely that she held the title for 4 consecutive years without serious challenge. Her competitive weight had climbed to 157 pounds, adding nearly 40 pounds of lean muscle to her frame through relentless training and nutritional precision. Her legs earned the Thunder nickname, each quad sweeping with definition that resembled anatomical charts rather than human tissue. On stage, she looked unbeatable, because she was. Then the International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness revealed their true priorities. In 2000, they introduced new judging criteria that prioritized femininity, code for penalizing women who built too much muscle. Suddenly, judges evaluated facial aesthetics, makeup application, and overall softness along with muscular development. They essentially imported beauty pageant standards into a strength sport, punishing women for achieving the exact goals bodybuilding supposedly celebrated. Kim, along with other dominant athletes, faced an impossible choice: shrink their physiques to satisfy arbitrary femininity standards, or accept lower placements despite superior muscular development. She attempted transitioning to fitness and figure competitions, categories that rewarded leaner, less muscular builds. But the competitive fire that drove her to 4 Miss Olympia victories couldn't ignite in divisions designed specifically to prevent women from looking too muscular. The rule change wasn't subtle evolution. It was targeted restriction aimed directly at athletes like Kim who'd grown too successful. Male bodybuilders continued receiving acclaim for adding mass year after year, celebrated for pushing human limits. Female competitors who did the exact same thing found themselves penalized, judged not just on muscle, but on whether they maintained conventional attractiveness standards. Kim's career demonstrates how women's sports constantly battle external pressure to remain palatable rather than pursue excellence. She built the best physique in women's bodybuilding history, and the industry responded by literally changing the rules to make her achievement obsolete. Number 4. Abby "Pudgy" Stockton, rewriting 1930s gender rules. Born August 11, 1917 in Santa Monica, California, Abby Stockton grew up when muscular women faced outright ridicule and strength training was considered exclusively masculine territory. Her childhood nickname, Pudgy, given by her father, stuck throughout her life, despite her later transformation into a pioneering strength athlete. During her final high school year, she met Les Stockton, a UCLA gymnast who became her boyfriend. At 19, she took a telephone operator job, requiring long sedentary hours, and predictably gained weight from the inactive lifestyle. Dissatisfied with her changing body and determined to take control, Abby made a revolutionary decision for 1930s America. She started lifting weights. Female weightlifting was barely recognized as legitimate athletic pursuit in that era. Professional strong women existed primarily as circus acts, often mocked or dismissed as freakish rather than athletic. What separated Abby from those sideshow performers was her combination of strength and conventional beauty. She shattered the prevailing stereotype that women who lifted weights would inevitably become unfeminine or unattractive. People marveled at her ability to build visible muscle while maintaining graceful femininity, proving these qualities weren't mutually exclusive as society insisted. Abby's legacy extends far beyond her personal achievements. She became a trailblazer who demonstrated that women could pursue strength training without sacrificing femininity or conventional attractiveness. This seems obvious now, but in the 1930s and 1940s, it represented radical thinking that challenged fundamental cultural assumptions about gender and physicality. She paved the way for every woman who's ever entered a weight room, every female athlete who's prioritized strength over slenderness, every competitor who's built muscle without apologizing for it. Modern female bodybuilders, powerlifters, and strength athletes stand on the foundation Abby built when she decided that social disapproval mattered less than personal empowerment. Her story proves that revolutionary change often starts with one person refusing to accept arbitrary limitations. Abby Stockton didn't just build a powerful body, she built a powerful precedent that continues enabling women to pursue strength on their own terms nearly a century later.
Number 3. Irene Anderson, arrested for looking too powerful. Sweden operates under a controversial system called muscle profiling, where law enforcement can detain individuals based solely on how muscular they appear. No probable cause required beyond visible hypertrophy. Irene Anderson, standing 5'7" and weighing 185 pounds of virtually fat-free muscle, became a prime target for this Orwellian fitness surveillance. Her physique wasn't just impressive, it was forensic evidence in a country where extreme muscularity triggers automatic suspicion of steroid use. In 2009, police rounded up Irene alongside 11 other elite bodybuilders, conducting searches based purely on their appearance. When authorities found a small personal steroid stash on Irene, she admitted ownership immediately, claiming personal use rather than distribution. The financial penalty amounted to 500 Swedish kroner, roughly 89 American dollars, barely a speeding ticket. But monetary fines pale compared to reputational destruction. For athletes whose entire careers depend on public image and sponsorship credibility, that single bust became a permanent stain. Her breast implants stretched so tightly across her chest they appeared sculpted rather than surgical, testament to how little body fat remained on her frame. She'd placed highly in nearly every competition she entered, building a reputation as Sweden's strongest woman through years of disciplined training. But one police interaction unraveled everything. The concept of being detained for looking too fit sounds absurd until you're the person whose physical dedication becomes probable cause. Irene's story exposes how female bodybuilders face scrutiny that male athletes largely avoid. Her crime wasn't possession, it was succeeding too visibly at building muscle beyond what society considers appropriately feminine. In a single afternoon, law enforcement transformed her from champion to cautionary tale, proving that sometimes your greatest achievement becomes your biggest liability. The real punishment wasn't the fine. It was watching her carefully constructed image collapse under the weight of public judgment. Number 2. Colette Guimond, surviving 9 surgeries to compete again. Colette Guimond packs 150 pounds of muscle onto a 5'1" frame, making her one of the most compact powerhouses in professional bodybuilding. Starting training at 26, she won the 1989 Montreal Bodybuilding Championship just 2 years later, demonstrating genetic potential that accelerated her development beyond typical timelines. Her ascent seemed unstoppable until 1997 delivered catastrophic injury, requiring 9 separate surgical procedures.
Most athletes would retire immediately after that level of trauma. Colette intensified her training instead, pushing harder than ever to rebuild symmetry and reclaim her competitive position. By 2005, she'd captured the Canadian Heavyweight Bodybuilding Championship and earned professional status, proving that willpower can sometimes override physical limitations. Despite competing in only 3 official contests throughout her career, she never stopped training or sculpting her physique. By 2018, she weighed 175 pounds, 25 pounds heavier than her competition weight, stretching her proportions to absolute limits. Her calves grew so massive they seemed architecturally impossible, too large to fit into conventional pants. Thankfully, stretchy leggings exist. Colette's journey isn't about achieving perfect symmetry or winning the most titles. It's about refusing to quit when biology and injury demanded surrender. 9 surgeries that left her body asymmetrical and damaged would end most careers permanently. For Colette, they became motivation to prove that determination transcends physical setbacks. Her later physique, heavier and more extreme than her competition days, suggests she continued pushing boundaries purely for personal satisfaction rather than external validation. She'd already proven herself professionally. The subsequent years of training served different purposes entirely. Some athletes train for trophies. Others train because stopping feels like death. Colette falls into the second category, someone whose identity became so intertwined with bodybuilding that retirement wasn't a viable option, regardless of injury, surgery, or diminishing competitive opportunities. Number 1. Natalia Kuznetsova, the world's largest female bodybuilder. At 5'7" and weighing a staggering 225 pounds, Natalia Kuznetsova stands as the world's largest female bodybuilder, a living monument to what happens when human biology meets pharmaceutical enhancement and relentless dedication. At just 29 years old, this Russian powerhouse has spent over 15 years sculpting a body that defies every conventional expectation of female physiology. Her thighs measure an unbelievable 29 inches, wider than most women's waists, and her biceps stretch to a jaw-dropping 19 inches, roughly equivalent to an extra large adult neck circumference. But Natalia isn't just about size. She's strength incarnate, holding world records in women's bench press at 375 pounds and deadlift at 530 pounds. She could literally crush your hand with a casual grip. Her transformation from slim girl to muscle colossus didn't happen naturally, and she doesn't pretend otherwise. Natalia openly admits to using anabolic steroids, though she claims it's only in small doses before competitions. Even so, the impact is undeniable and permanent. Her body fat percentage has plummeted to single digits, her muscles have expanded exponentially, and her voice has dropped to a deep baritone that startles people expecting a feminine tone. These are textbook signs of long-term androgen exposure, testosterone and its synthetic cousins literally rewriting her biology at the cellular level. The question her physique raises is uncomfortable but necessary. Does trading a higher voice and conventional femininity for an 8-pack and unbeatable strength feel like a fair exchange? For Natalia, the answer appears to be yes. She's achieved measurements that seemed biologically impossible for female athletes, entering record books where few women can follow. But those records come stamped with permanent biological modifications that extend far beyond competition season. When she eventually stops training, the muscles will shrink. The voice won't revert. The jawline won't soften. The secondary sex characteristics altered by years of steroid use remain permanently modified. Natalia Kuznetsova pushes the limits of human potential, while simultaneously blurring lines between natural and enhanced, between female physiology and pharmacologically altered biology. Her story challenges fundamental assumptions about what bodies can become when chemistry meets obsession, demanding honest conversation about power, beauty, and the permanent price of temporary glory.
Still curious? Then don't stop now. The next mystery is already waiting for you. Just click the video on screen. I saved it just for you. See you there, curious one.